Hey guys, hope you're all doing well. So I'm here to do part 3 of my Q&A video. This is the part where you guys have asked about relationships, long distance relationships, and that kind of stuff. So I'm going to try and get through all the questions. Okay, so the first question is, how long have you been in a long distance relationship? I believe we're in our 5th year now, going on 6 years. So yeah, it's been a while. How do you keep your long distance relationship alive? With us, it's just all about communication. We communicate every single day. When he wakes up, he calls me. When I wake up, I call him. And throughout the day, we're chatting, WhatsApp, Viber, Skype, Facebook chat. There's so many ways to communicate thanks to technology now, so it really isn't difficult to keep the relationship as real as possible, although you're not in the same place. How did you and your fiance meet? For us, we met through a mutual friend on Facebook, and yeah, it's very unconventional, not the way I would have imagined it would have happened, but it worked out perfectly. How do you and your love remain faithful in a long distance relationship, and do you think it is realistically possible for two people to stay faithful to each other in an extremely long distance relationship? Yes, I believe it is very possible for two people to remain faithful. At the time that I met my fiance, I was really at the point where I was kind of done with relationships, so he was a breath of fresh air. It began as a friendship, and then it progressed into what it is now, and I knew that I wanted to make this relationship work, so I put the work into it, and I wasn't willing to sabotage the relationship. I wasn't willing to let anyone else sabotage the relationship. Same thing on his end. He met me at the right time. He was in the right mind frame, so we both were kind of at the point in our life where we were ready for a serious commitment. So being faithful is not an issue. I feel like where there could be room for people to be unfaithful is if the two of you are not on the same page. So one wants to be serious, the other one still wants to, I guess, play around. That's where I think there is room for error. But other than that, if you both know what you want and you're willing to put the work into it, I don't believe that you will be unfaithful to each other. What advice would you give people in a long distance relationship like your experience? Because my BF is in Ghana, needs some advice. Okay, it's really hard to give advice to someone in a long distance relationship because everyone's situation is different. It depends on how you met, where you both are at in your life, if it's something that you really want, something that you can commit to. But I can say that if it is something that you want, don't give up so easily. When things get a little bit tough, or you're missing him, or you feel like you're not sure, don't just throw your hands up in defeat, because I can tell you that with time, if you're serious about the relationship and he is also serious, things definitely fall into place, and you kind of get a rhythm going with each other. Like I said, I've been doing this for almost 6 years now. In the beginning, obviously, it was a lot more difficult because it was something very new to me, but over time you definitely get to know the person. You figure out what makes them tick, what makes them happy, and same way with him towards you. You learn to pick your battles very wisely, because you can't fight about everything, because you're not in the same space. So sometimes a fight over the phone can be a lot more stressful than when you're in person, and maybe you can deal with it and resolve it. So yeah, definitely pick your battles wisely. Also, don't be too overly sensitive, because sometimes I feel like that can allow you room to think about crazy scenarios. Also, a lot of patience, a lot of prayer. It's very important to pray as well, that God continues to lead and direct the relationship in the way that he sees best. And like I said, if it's meant to be, everything honestly will fall into place. I am a true testament of that. Before you met him, did you date any losers that made you lose hope? Did any friends betray you? And what advice will you give young girls like me? Okay, none of my friends betrayed me. My friends have stuck with me from the beginning. But yes, the person before my fiance, yeah, he really did a number on me, and I was actually in a really bad emotional state when I met my fiance. So him coming in at the time he did, honestly, I believe it was God, because there's no other way to understand how everything fell into place. He was just the right person for me at the right time. He's exactly what I needed. And honestly, guys, you got to be able to discern the difference between a boy and a man, because there is a huge difference in dating the two. I believe my previous relationship, he was not mature enough. My fiance is a man, so he fulfills that role. There are just certain things that are not even a factor, and it just makes the flow of the relationship a lot more smoother. For example, you know, insecurities, jealousy, that kind of stuff that you don't need to deal with. If a man is self-assured, he's confident, he knows his position, those things will not be an issue, and that will take a huge strain off any relationship. So if you're in the dating scene, guys, really pray to God for discernment so you can, you know, see the difference between the two, because it'll save you a lot of stress in the end. Do you want or plan on having kids? Yes, of course, I want kids. I plan on having kids, but hey, everything in God's time. How are you dealing with getting married later on in life? I'm dealing with it okay. It's not a problem for me. My family, my parents, they've never been the pushy ones, like a lot of African parents where they want their daughters married off by a certain age. My parents weren't like that, and I always made it very clear to them that I wanted to find love in the most natural way possible, so they just kind of let me be, and you know, at the right time, the right man came along. So it's not a problem for me, but I know in a lot of African households it can be a problem, but honestly for me and for my fiance it hasn't been an issue. But then again, I'm not the girl who's been dreaming of getting married since forever. That hasn't been me. Honestly, I can tell you that it's been within the course of this relationship that I've been slowly getting towards marriage. I believe this is the right time because I feel like we really understand each other well, and the next natural step now is to get married. So we haven't rushed anything, and I think it's really important to take your time in a relationship so you can make the right decisions. We always tell each other that, look, I'm not going anywhere. He's like, I'm not going anywhere. So of course we'll get married. We're just not in a rush because we want to make sure, you know, that everything is in place, you know, in all aspects, so that we can have a successful marriage. I would like to know why you want to move to Ghana after you get married. Why doesn't your fiance move to where you are? Which country is hotter weather-wise, Australia or Ghana? I pretty much addressed this one in the previous Q&A video. Which country is hotter? Okay, Ghana is quite humid. I sweat a lot in Ghana, but Australia, the heat here, this is the type of heat that gives you sunburn. I have been sunburnt before, being out in this Australian sun. The sun here is really piercing. Like when it's touching your skin, it actually feels like it's biting your skin. So I feel like the temperature is a lot higher here, but Ghana I feel is a lot more humid. So I would really say Australia is hotter. Here in the summer when it's hot, the breeze is like an oven. It's not cool. Whereas in Ghana, like, although it is hot, if you're sitting in the car and the window is open, the breeze is cool. But here when it's hot, everything is just hot. The air is hot. It's just, life is hot. It's crazy. Do you own your own house in Ghana? Do you think 8 years is a big gap between two people in a relationship? 8 years, I guess it depends at which end of the spectrum. Are you a lot older? Are you a lot younger? That can make a difference. In terms of the house, yes, that is all being worked on right now. I find I prefer African men, and there are not many where I live. I feel I have more in common with them, and also I'm half Sierra Leonean. Every time I go home, guys are after me for a relationship, but I never pursue it because it's hard to gauge sincerity in such a short time. Many have exaggerated ideas of America and see me as an opportunity instead of a person. I know many who made a successful loving match and others who were horribly deceived. How did you know your fiance was sincere? What did you look for? Okay, that's a really good question. Obviously there's good and bad in long distance relationships. How did I know my fiance was sincere? Like I said, we had a friendship for some time before, you know, anything progressed. So I think it's really important to establish a friendship before you jump into a relationship. Just because they say all the right things and promise you everything doesn't mean that they're sincere. Over time, you really will get to know a person. So yeah, take your time. Obviously if you're going home for holidays, that's a totally different type of feel, you know. And I feel like sometimes when you go with the mindset of I'm looking for this, you may not necessarily find it. I didn't go looking for this relationship. Honestly, it came to me. That's why I say that it really was God who orchestrated this whole thing, because it was at a time where I least expected it. So, you know, don't push it too much. If it's something that you want and you can't find someone, you know, where you live, and you think that maybe long distance may have to be the way to go, just really pray about it, that, you know, God will bring the right person into your life. There's nothing that God cannot do. Anything is possible with God. So yeah, just take it up to him in prayer. I think that's really important. Hi Abena, my question is, what are some of the factors or reasons you considered that made you decide to move from a first world country, i.e. Australia, to Ghana? I'm also in a long distance relationship with my fiance in Ghana, just like you, and he suggested I move to Ghana. I'm in the US, and I screamed a big hell no. LOL. I asked him to move here instead. Am I being selfish? I just can't see myself living there, especially with all the issues with electricity, among other things. P.S. I love your channel. Thank you for your question, and once again, that is a good question. I've addressed this a little bit before, but in regards to are you being selfish? No, not necessarily. You guys really need to have a serious conversation and find out how you can meet halfway, because you shouldn't be, you know, expected to move to Ghana if that's something you really don't want, and he also shouldn't be expected to move to the US if that's not something that he wants. So yeah, you guys really need to have a good talk and hash everything out, bring out the pros and cons of each, and hopefully find a way for it to work, because that is a difficult one. In regards to, you know, all the issues in Ghana, being that it's a third world country, I have had this conversation with my fiance, and he's like, okay, yes, Ghana is very different to, you know, Australia, but he says to me, what you guys have to understand, and by you guys he's referring to us outside of Ghana, he's like, once you guys realize and accept that this is not America, this is not London, this is not Australia, things will be a lot easier on you. You'll kind of find a way to work into how things happen in Ghana. Because he says to me, look, we make it work here. Like, we live life here. It's just a different type of life to what you guys are living over there. So that's also something I think you should keep in mind as well. But yeah, you guys really need to have a long, serious conversation. Ghanaian men seem to place a lot of emphasis on food and cooking during marriage. Do you think you're well prepared for that part of married life? Are you able to cook most Ghanaian dishes? What advice can you provide for those who are not able to cook? What's the best way of learning how to cook Ghanaian dishes? Yes, in Ghanaian culture, the men love their food. Mothers teach their daughters that can't marry a man, or a man will not marry you if you can't cook. So yes, it is important. For me, my mum is a cook, so I've learnt, you know, quite a few things from her. I can't cook everything, but you know, I can definitely make a few dishes, and my fiance is very well aware of that. It's never been a factor in our relationship. Depending on the type of man that you're with, that could be a problem, but I also believe that once you get married and you're living as a married couple, you know, you figure things out as you go. I don't feel like it's expected for you to go in knowing every single thing, because that's unrealistic. So I wouldn't stress about it. You know, definitely get a few dishes down pat, and then, you know, take it from there. And if your man is understanding, I'm sure it won't be a problem. But in regards to where you can learn to cook dishes, obviously, you know, your mother's always the best place to start. But if you have, you know, female friends who are Ghanaian, aunties, you know, cousins, but these days, even jumping online, you know, YouTube has a lot of videos on how to cook Ghanaian dishes. So yeah, lots of options are available to you if it's something you really want to learn. Okay guys, so that is it. I hope I answered all the questions that you had, and I hope you enjoyed this 3-part Q&A video. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I will catch you in my next video. Bye. Because the wedding is in Ghana, a lot of my friends here will not be able to come, which is unfortunate, but I mean, that's just the way it goes. But there are a few that are committed and are flying all the way from here to Ghana so they can, you know, be a part of my special day.